All right, today we're going to talk about something huge, a massive shift happening in education that could literally redefine the starting line for an entire generation. It's all about ending what you could call the financial lottery and making sure everyone gets a real shot at a stable future. Let's dive in.
But before we get into all that, let me ask you something. Just think about it for a second. Where did you actually learn about money? Was it, in a classroom somewhere, from a mentor, or, and I'm guessing this is true for a lot of us, was it just kind of left up to chance?
And that's the thing, right? For way too long, our financial education has basically been a dinner table lottery. You might have a dad who, because he grew up in the Depression, was a miser who tracked every single penny in a ledger. Or on the other hand, you could have a dad who was an open book about money and even gave you a real budget project at 15. I mean, two totally different starting points, and it's all just the luck of the draw.
So this lottery, this roll of the dice, leads straight to this massive problem we can call the graduation gap. Basically, it's this systemic failure where we send high school grads out into the world with a diploma, but with zero clue how to actually handle the money they're about to make. It is a critical oversight that puts young adults on the back foot from day one.
But the good news is things are starting to change. For our case study today, we're looking at Minnesota, because they're tackling this gap head-on with a brand new landmark mandate. Let's break down exactly how they're doing it.
So here's the core of it. Starting with the freshman class of 2024-2025, a personal finance course is now mandatory for graduation. This is huge. It means the class of 2028 will be the very first to get this. And listen to this. It's not just some little unit in another class. No way. This is a dedicated full credit course covering the absolute essentials: budgeting, taxes, credit, insurance, and even investing.
And this quote just nails it, right? It says it all. What was always considered this optional skill, this nice to have, is now finally being treated as what it actually is, a required tool for surviving in the modern world.
Okay, so making it mandatory is a massive step, but that also opens up this really big question: what should we actually be teaching? And this throws us right into the middle of a huge debate in financial education. Should the focus be on survival skills or on abstract theory?
This is where a really dangerous trend can pop up, what we'll call the Chapter 4 trap. It's that temptation to skip all the boring stuff and jump right to the exciting topics like investing and retirement accounts before you've even covered the basics in Chapter 1.
And this is perfectly captured by what one of our sources calls the Corvette lesson. He tells this story about being in the military and just dreaming of buying a Corvette. And he figured he could totally afford the payments if he just lived on oatmeal and soup. That's a classic Chapter 4 mistake, right? Focusing on the glamorous prize while completely ignoring the reality of day-to-day living.
Instead, a real, effective education has to start with Chapter 1. It's got to be about the practical, real-world stuff that can absolutely derail your life. Things like, how does a checking account actually work? How do you read a credit report? What in the world does an insurance deductible mean? And seeing firsthand the domino effect of missing just one payment.
And this quote from J.S. Waldo just gets right to the heart of it. The goal, at first, isn't building wealth, it's building understanding. You have to pour the foundation before you can even think about building the house.
And man, when that foundation is missing, the consequences can be really severe. To understand the human cost of the graduation gap, let's look at one educator's experience teaching financial literacy to adults out in Phoenix.
So who was actually showing up for these community classes? Well, it was primarily adult Spanish immigrants and folks from low-income communities. These were the people who were completely overlooked by the traditional system, the people who lost that dinner table lottery and were now trying to catch up later in life.
And the depth of this knowledge gap was just staggering. A lot of the people in these classes didn't just misunderstand banks, they deeply, profoundly distrusted them. Some came from countries where the financial systems were corrupt, and they truly believed that once you put your money in a bank, it wasn't yours anymore. They kept their entire life savings in cash at home.
This wasn't just an individual problem. It was a generational one. Entire families would come to these classes, with the kids often translating for their parents. And it was just this powerful reminder. If parents were never taught these skills, how could they possibly be expected to pass them on to their own children?
And that is precisely why a mandate like the one in Minnesota is so revolutionary. This isn't just about adding a new class to the schedule. It's about fundamentally changing the starting line for everyone.
Because look, the ultimate goal here isn't to create a generation of millionaires. It's to create a generation of confident, empowered adults. It's about replacing that fear and anxiety around money with understanding. It's about replacing limitations with options and with dignity.
By making this knowledge a fundamental part of school, we're leveling the playing field. We're making sure that every single student, no matter their background, no matter what was talked about at their dinner table, gets the same basic tools to build a secure financial future.
This final quote just drives home the stakes. The cost of inaction, of not teaching this stuff, it isn't theoretical. It's real, it's expensive, and as we've seen, it can impact the entire course of a person's life.
So as this starting line shifts for the class of 2028 and beyond, the question isn't just for educators anymore. It's really for all of us. Whether you're a parent, a mentor, or just a member of the community, we all have a role to play in building a more financially literate future. So the question is, what will yours be?